Alright, back to the competitor analysis. The comparative returns chart for Samsung, Apple, Nokia, and Blackberry show that the industry has been prosperous over the last 5 years, where unfortunately Blackberry has generated negative returns over this same period for shareholders. Even though they don't sell more phones than Samsung, Apple leads the way at a 137% return ratio over the last 5 years. Additionally, even though all of these companies' gross margins are similar to their competitors in the 30 to 40% range, the return on equity for BlackBerry has hovered just below zero during this period, whereas all of their competitors have ranged between 10 and 40% depending on the year. Some wholesale changes are needed for BlackBerry to survive, which I will touch on shortly. Innovation through research and development is a key metric in this industry, as all these companies spend significant capital on R&D. The low switching costs for consumers makes this industry highly competitive, and to keep consumers interested continually in their new and unique products, continual research and development must be done. Consumers will easily move to a competitor. The handset industry is being redefined by this key success factor, and the company who wins this battle will most likely be the industry leader. This is where BlackBerry has struggled to fit the mold, as their innovation has not been able to keep up. R&D expenditures indicate not only a firm's dedication to producing future products and making process improvements, it also allows a firm to maintain market share while increasing their operational efficiency. This expansion of sector and product knowledge, as well as technology and manufacturing through applied research, is critical in increasing productivity and reliable outputs. Over the past 3 years, BlackBerry has been decreasing their amount spent on R&D. In 2015, they invested over $500 million less on R&D than the prior year. This deprioritization of innovation is concerning, particularly given that the competitors are either increasing their annual expenditures or at least keeping them relatively flat. In order to maintain products that meet the market's demand for new and improved technologies and grow their current declining market share, BlackBerry must resume some increased investment in R&D, as they are spending a fraction of what their competition is. Apple's investment in R&D is extremely aggressive, as you can see here, and although Samsung and Nokia spent slightly less in 2015 than the prior year, they are also investing considerably in this area. Another success factor is differentiation through advertising and marketing. This comes through identifying themselves. Customers are identifying themselves through their technology choices these days. So understanding how much each of these companies spend on advertising and marketing will reflect on the holistic image portrayed to consumers. These are some popular advertisements for the industry, and each of these images speak to how these companies are focusing on their brand. This is where Apple has virtually cornered the market. By driving their brand loyalty to a very high level, they have been able to keep their resellers from discounting their products, and they had this minimum advertised price. Customers identified so strongly with their brand that they've been able to avoid discounting their products in the market. The differentiation created by this strategy has driven their investor returns to the highest in the industry. Given the highly competitive environment that BlackBerry operates within, investing in promotional activities is going to be paramount to maintaining relevance within the consumer market. Starting in 2013, smartphone manufacturers have collectively increased their expenditure in this area by 33%, with Samsung and Apple leading this pack. The intense competition has only been increasing. While Samsung expenditures are considerably more than Apple, Apple continues to make concerted efforts to increase promotional spending year over year. Return on investment is reflected by several financial metrics. To begin, by examining revenue, and only Apple has really experienced significant growth over the last 3 years. BlackBerry sales have plummeted, and Samsung revenue is declining, but at a lesser pace. And Nokia's revenue has remained relatively stable. When reviewing each firm's cost of goods sold and diving into EBITDA, Blackberry, Samsung, and Nokia, where Apple's cost of goods has increased each year. BlackBerry's inventory worth has also declined steadily, while Apple has increased and Samsung and Nokia has been fluctuating slightly. EBITDA is really a measure of a firm's efficiency and overall health and profit-producing ability. And unlike their competitors, BlackBerry experienced substantial decreases in both EBITDA and gross income, especially in 2014. They were able to realize some gain recently. In an effort to turn things around and keep up with the current market, BlackBerry is focusing their efforts in 2016 on using Android-powered devices for its releases. And despite grim financial metrics over the past few years, BlackBerry is still in the game largely thanks to their reputation for security, which continues to resonate with both enterprise and government accounts. So let's talk a little bit more about the companies. Microsoft and Nokia. They really have two goals that they're really reaching towards in 2018, focusing on cloud computing and gaining significant growth through their Windows operating system. Following the merger with Nokia has really generated less than the desired results. The focus now is to keep the Lumia device and improvements happening so that their brand can grow, but also to find partnerships with other devices so they can use that as a growth tool. Specifically, they're trying to grow to over 1 billion active devices per month in handheld, tablet, and personal computer and laptops. Based on the actions of Nokia's parent company, Microsoft, each company will focus strictly on what they do best. Nokia is going to make handsets and focus there, and Microsoft will focus on the operating system that supports them. Samsung really is making for India as one of its primary goals in 2016, according to the CEO. As a device maker, they don't build proprietary operating systems, they build handsets. So their focus is understandably recognizing the way forward is going to be at the forefront of innovation and all of their core product lines, including handhelds. It is the belief of the firm that becoming the first mover for new technology will offset the price pressure and oversupply problems that plague the smart device market. And this becomes their overarching goal for 2016 and beyond. Apple's a private company, and they're not really keen on talking about their future plans with anyone. The best that can be surmised is the company is focused on growing the number of devices in use to combat the pricing pressures facing the industry. Dino Londas from Information Week has talked about Apple's need to begin to get their devices in as many hands as possible to win the war of the ecosystem. While the date of this comment is a couple years past, the message is still ringing through with the emergence of the iPad mini and equally condensed versions of full-scale equipment that are driving the price of handhelds to consumers. Sustainability on the software side is another of the firm's source of inspiration for future goals. Blackberry. After being on top of the mobile industry, it's been a difficult fall for Blackberry, as we have touched on. They have reached out with a connection to the Android system and are considering that as a lifeline as part of their resurgence. Connecting major industry and governments must continue to be a staple in the Blackberry barn, as they will rely on the security of their devices. Additionally, Blackberry is working to expand the software part of their business that has been the most successful of late. Now we'll talk a little bit about some internal notes. Blackberry was founded, as we mentioned before, in 1985, and they went public in 1997. In 2007, they introduced the Blackberry Curve, and this was intended to straddle both consumer and business markets, whereas many of the previous devices were built solely with corporate users in mind. This was a pivotal time, as Apple had just introduced the iPhone, as BlackBerry was working on going toe-to-toe with these folks. They were at their peak value. In response to Apple's introduction, They released the Blackberry Bold 9000 that featured similar screen resolution as the iPhone. And they also introduced the Blackberry Storm, which was the first touchscreen device. Yet, in an interesting turn of events, they launched a flip phone just a year later, which really was seen as a step back in terms of innovation. Nonetheless, BlackBerry's market share was at an all-time high. And once viewed as was one of the world's most valuable technology companies, BlackBerry devices were indispensable among businesses right up until iPhones and Android devices were introduced. BlackBerry smartphones are now viewed more like a niche product within the U.S., primarily by corporate executives and government officials. Overseas, however, the brand still remains popular, particularly in Indonesia, and as BlackBerry operates its offices over there also. And to capitalize upon their favorable recognition outside of North America, the company has recently introduced some low-cost devices in the international markets to drive additional market share over there. So now we talk about some of the key challenges, identifying the hurdles. BlackBerry's key problem stems from product obsolescence. And they are the perfect example of a technology company that failed to innovate in a quickly evolving market. BlackBerry's focus on the corporate mobile market was good, yet the business customers did not drive the smartphone revolution. It was the consumers. BlackBerry wasn't prepared for the emergence of apps or touchscreens, and they failed to anticipate that smartphones would ever be used for anything other than communication devices, nonetheless entertainment. Demand for handheld devices is increasing around the globe, and unfortunately, not for BlackBerry. Their devices have either been too expensive or too feature-rich in the markets, with frontline sales only happening through significant manufacturer discounts. In our view of the industry and specific key success factors, we can clearly see that the impact that research and development spending has had on the market acceptance of many of the competitors' handheld devices. And third, the BlackBerry has not been able to identify with the younger generation. BlackBerry is identified as kind of their parent smartphone, and the younger generation is going to be the focus for BlackBerry if they're going to continue to drive success in the future. Heck, I don't even know anyone under 30 who has a BlackBerry. So, the strategic recommendation, the path forward for a second-tier provider is not always easy. Options like shutting the door are always available, but not where we want to go, not where they want to go.